You know, those really unique, almost abstract figures you see on the jeweled throne of Puri? Ever wonder what their story is? Well, they're called the Chaturdhamurti. And believe me, they're way more than just a group of deities. They're actually this incredible spiritual synthesis, a coming together of some of India's deepest traditions into one single vision. So let's dive in and unpack this.
All right, so who are these four figures, really? I mean, on the surface, okay, you've got Lord Jagannath, his brother Balabhadra, their sister Subhadra, and then there's this mysterious pillar, Shri Sudarshan. But the real magic, the real story here, it's not just about their names. It's about how these forms, which seem so different, actually come together to mean something so much bigger. We're talking about a totally harmonious, unified whole.
Okay, let's kick things off with the main event, the Lord of the Universe himself, Jagannath. His whole identity is this amazing story of duality. He's this perfect mix of a super fierce protector on one side and this divine, compassionate beloveds on the other.
So check this out. You've got these two sides to him, right? On one hand, his roots are tied to Nrusimha, the terrifying lion-faced avatar of Vishnu, the one who just completely vanquishes evil. But then, on the other hand, he's all about divine love. This part of him was really shaped by the stories of Lord Krishna, especially from that incredible epic poem, Jayadeva's Gita Govinda.
And this Nrusimha connection, it's not just some dusty old story, it's a living, breathing tradition. See, before Jagannath became the figure we know today, Puri was actually a major center for Nrsimha worship. When King Indraduma had his first vision of the Lord, it was in this fierce, glowing form. And get this, even now, during the super sacred Navakalabhara ritual, they use Nrsimha mantras to sanctify the new idols. That tells you everything, doesn't it? That fierce, protective energy is still the absolute foundation of Jagannath's power.
Okay, now let's talk about the divine feminine energy on the throne. Devi Subhadra, and let me tell you, she is so much more than just the sister. She's the primal energy, a cosmic force that actually connects ancient tribal spirituality with the big classical traditions. It's amazing.
Her journey is just brilliant. It starts with her tribal roots, see? Her worship is tied to Stambheshwari, a pillar goddess from western Odisha who represents stability. Then, in the Puranic texts, she's identified as Ekanamsha, or Yogamaya, the divine sister of Krishna and Balarama. So what happens? The tradition puts her on the throne, and in doing so, it honors both that indigenous, earth-based goddess and the cosmic sister from the scriptures. It's this beautiful, powerful statement of inclusivity.
All right, up next we have the elder brother, Lord Balabhadra. He stands tall and white, a symbol of purity and strength. But he's not just another member of the family, no way. He is the embodiment of righteousness itself, and he acts as a bridge between some of the biggest traditions in Hinduism.
Yeah, this quote just nails their dynamic, doesn't it? Think of it like this. If Jagannath is prema, or divine love, then Balabhadra is dharma. That's cosmic law, duty, righteousness. The two of them together, they represent these two essential forces that literally run the universe.
And this is where it gets really fascinating. Balabhadra's role as a unifier. In the Vaishnava tradition, he's known as Singhasana, the first expansion of Vishnu. But then you look at his symbols, the plow and mace, and his whole vibe as a protector of nature, and it lines up so well with the qualities of Lord Shiva. In fact, in rural Odisha, people revere him in a way that's super similar to how they worship Shiva. He just beautifully transcends all those sectarian lines.
And now, for the most mysterious figure on the throne, Shri Sudarshan. See, here's the thing. Unlike the others, Sudarshan isn't a person. It's not a deity with a face and a story in the same way. It's something else entirely. It's a symbol, a pillar that stands for pure, raw, divine energy. So what is Sudarshan exactly? Well, it's the embodiment of something called Kriya Shakti, which basically means the Lord's power of action. It's divine will made real. This wooden pillar. It represents the cosmic axis, that dynamic, protective energy that actually sets the whole divine plan in motion. It's pure power, in its most abstract form.
And in the temple's rituals, Sudarshan has a really important job. It's seen as the living presence of that same fierce Nrsimha energy we were talking about earlier. It's also the Chalanti Pratima, or the movable deity. That means during festivals, it's Sudarshan that carries the Lord's protective power outside the temple, making sure that divine protection reaches absolutely everywhere.
Okay, so now that we've looked at each one, let's bring them all back together, because this is where we get the final revelation.
what they all mean as one single, unified vision of the divine.
And here it is, the whole picture in perfect balance. You have Jagannath, who is love and compassion. You have Balabhadra, who is righteousness and strength. You have Subhadra, representing that primal cosmic energy. And finally, Sudarshan, which is divine action and power. You see, together they're not just a family, they're the entire spectrum of existence.
So what this all boils down to is a truly breathtaking synthesis. I mean, think about it. In these four forms, you've got the coming together of India's greatest spiritual streams. You have the ancient tribal traditions, the devotion of Vaishnavism, the power of Shaivism, and the cosmic energy of Shaktism, all right there, living in perfect harmony on one throne.
And this isn't some new idea. This tradition has incredibly deep roots. The four deities were officially placed on the jeweled throne way back in the 13th century, and the sacred wooden forms that we still worship today, those were established in the 14th century. We're talking about an unbroken heritage of over 700 years that continues to influence literally every part of Odia life.
So, that leaves us with one last thing to think about. This whole idea of bringing together so many different beliefs, tribal and classical, fierce and gentle, masculine and feminine, and weaving them into one beautiful harmonious whole. You have to ask, is that just an ancient religious concept? Or is it maybe a really powerful message for our own often divided world today? Something to chew on, for sure. Thanks for joining me.